Good day, everybody. My name is Michael Boyu of MB Consults. I want to welcome each and every one of you joining us from wherever you are. I want to show my deepest appreciation because this is a Saturday, it's a weekend. I'm sure that we all have a million and one things we can be doing right now, wherever we are. So I do not take it for granted that you are here, but it's that time of the week where I've committed to give back to the community 1 hour of my time just to address, career related, topics and hopefully answer questions or concerns that people may have. So last week we had started the topic common resume mistakes and how to fix them. And I had mentioned that this is not supposed to be exhaustive in itself. It's just supposed to be a sneak peek and eye opener, a kind of an aha moment for people to just realize these little things can actually, cost you that, you know, prospective interview call. While we started this last week, I will do a quick recap and then hopefully we'll be concluding it in the course of this call. So what we had, started with last week was to look at what's the overview of the importance of a great resume. What makes a great resume? So let me even ask that question here. What just whatever your thoughts, there's no right or wrong answer. What do you think makes a great resume? Or even baseline? What are your expectations from your resume? I'm sure everybody on this call has had to work on their resume sometime in their lifetime, right? So what do you think makes a great resume? Thoughts? Hello. Hi. Yeah, Philip, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think I would say it all depends on the context, maybe based on your profession, your skill sets, years of experience, probably the roles you've played within that years of experience. And then the crown of it all is maybe your qualification or certification that justify that you are really an expert in that field and speak more. I think that makes it up. And now how you
Absolutely.
how you tell your story also now matter on that CV.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Anyone else? What makes a great resume? What are you expecting from your resume? Your resume goes out. What are you expecting? Hmm, interesting. So, so every week, at least I get two or three people reaching out to me and saying, Michael Boyo, I'm not getting interview calls. I don't know what's happening. Somebody still reached out to me 3 days ago on LinkedIn and said, Oga Mike, I've done this training, I've done that training, I've been applying for jobs for the past couple of months and I'm not getting any calls. And a lot of it, even not people I know, I was reading a post recently on LinkedIn where a health therapist was actually complaining on LinkedIn. She gave the statistics of how many job applications she has done in the last couple of months, how many has converted into an interview. It was single digit percent, actually like about 2 or 3% of the applications she's done actually converted to first stage interviews. And then about 60% were automatic rejection emails. And she was just ranting on LinkedIn. And everybody said, you know what, don't blame yourself that most of the jobs you find on LinkedIn actually don't really exist. Somebody actually made claim to say that about 95% of the jobs you find on LinkedIn are not legitimate. Now, I'm not saying it's true or not, but that's why then it becomes more imperative that your resume better be solid, right? Because you're not the only one applying. Now, so very quickly, we're just going to do a recap of what we said last week. So the resume is often the first impression you make, right? So your resume is supposed to be that non-verbal tool with which you introduce yourself to the world of the recruiter, the hiring manager, the potential organization, employer of labor, and you want to make a first good, great impression. That's what your resume should do. So for me, I usually say that the resume is the non-verbal tool that would help you to obtain a verbal engagement. Because that's when a recruiter literally picks up the phone and calls you and say, hey, Mike, I saw your resume. I think you're a good fit for a role I'm working on. Can we chat? Or pings you on LinkedIn, pings you on Indeed, Glassdoor, wherever your resume is, and somebody is interested in talking to you, right? That's that first impression. Number two, how long do you think it takes for somebody to make a very quick opinion about what your resume is all about? I was puzzled when I saw these statistics. Last week, somebody said 2 minutes, somebody said 90 seconds, somebody said 20 seconds. I still had somebody who is also this is even somebody that was also into resume review. That's what she does. In her talk that I was listening to, she actually said it takes 6 seconds. And I'm like, wow, just 6 seconds. Somebody is able to form an opinion about your resume. Now, whether right or wrong, take it or leave it. Definitely some part of it has to be true if everybody is saying something like that. So whether you believe it or not, we can all agree under 30 seconds. Let's leave it at say 30 seconds. Under 30 seconds, somebody looking at your resume is forming an opinion. Now, the question is, what opinion will be formed if somebody has to look at your resume for just 30 seconds? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Go. Just like Philip said, Philip was on the money. He said, showcasing your qualifications, your achievements, whether you're a good fit for the role in clear and compelling way. I like the word compelling. Even when I'm doing ChatGPT prompts, I usually use the word engaging and compelling. You know why? Because you want to be able to speak to the emotion of the person who is reading, listening, watching, who is on the other side. You want to be able to speak to the emotion of that person. So even when I give a ChatGPT prompt, I'm really a nerd when it comes to prompts, right? One of my bucket lists right now is prompt engineering. The better the prompt you give to any GPT tool, the better the outcome you would get. A lot of us just write and we keep getting whatever we get, right? It's garbage in, garbage out. Now, but if you are able to have an engaging and compelling means of communication, then you will have the probability to have a better result from whatever you are doing. And that's what we were talking about last week. Now, what are these common mistakes? Again, I want to say that these common mistakes, we are not going to go. I actually had about 10, but I just had to pick 5 that I felt, okay, these 5 are more relevant than the rest. And like I said, it's not exhaustive. It's just a matter of trying to point people to some of these certain mistakes that we do so that we don't have to keep coming back. I don't know what's wrong with my resume. I was saying last week, people tell me they take 3, 4, 5 days to apply for a role because they are working on their resume. And I'm like, but why? I can apply for a job in less than 30 minutes, regardless what that job is. As long as it's related to the roles I want to be applying for. I'm a tech person, right? And I know the domains I'm into. I'm not going to start saying I want to apply for a legal assistant job because my resume will have nothing close to it. So yes, that could take me 3, 4 days. But why should I be applying for a legal assistant job? That's not within my domain. So my resume should not in any way, shape, or form be relevant to that kind of a role. So yes, it will take me 3, 4 days. But if your role is within the domain of maybe an accountant, a finance person, or within the domain of a cybersecurity person, an IS audit person, a SOC person, in that space, wherever you are, a business analyst, process analyst, process improvement person, Lean Six Sigma person, right? You need to have that master resume. Your master resume should be that all-encompassing resume that should at least fit into 60, 70, 75% of whatever role or roles that you intend to be applying for. So that whenever you pick a new role or whatever role you want to apply for, because the JDs are always unique, right, to that role, you should already have 60, 70, 75% of the work done for you. And you are now doing the remaining 25%. But you know what most of us do? We apply for all roles with that master resume. That is that first mistake, the generic one-size-fits-all approach. Because we are lazy, and I can say it, we all have done it in the past. You have that one resume that contains everything. It's like a magic resume. And that's what you just do. Click apply, submit, click apply, submit. And then you are not getting calls just because that resume is not fit for purpose. That's the terminology we use in software testing. The application needs to be fit for purpose. Your resume needs to be fit for the purpose of the role, which is the job description, right? So what are we saying? Customize your resume for each position. Your resume needs to be a good fit for the job description. I'm not saying replicate the job description. We'll come to that. Some people's resume, they just copy paste the job description, and you understand what I mean by that when we get there. Mirror key items from the job description. We're not saying duplicate the job description. Mirror keywords. I still applied for a job during this week, and there were a bunch of requirements. This was a government job, so you have to fill a skills matrix, and they want to know how many years of experience you have in each of those skills that they've identified as there's the must-have skills and there's the desirable skills. When I submitted my resume to the recruiter who was going to submit my resume for that role, you know what he came back with me? He said, Mike, hey, he said you have experience in this particular area. He said, but I can't find that keyword in your resume. And I said, which area is that? And he mentioned it. I said, I didn't realize that area was there. Now, this has not even gotten to the hiring manager at all. This is recruiter doing his own personal due diligence. And he's telling me, Mike, if you are saying that you want to apply for this role, there needs to be evidence in your resume that you've done something in this area. That's him doing due diligence and me making a very bad mistake. That's what we are saying. We're not talking even 8 years here. We are talking human beings. 8 years wouldn't have called me back, right? Because 8 years doesn't even really care who I am. So that's what we are saying. Then, highlight relevant achievements for that specific role. A lot of us just talk about what we've done. We don't talk about what it achieved. It's one, so let's say, okay, you are a marathon runner, and all you just say is that, oh, I run every morning. That's all you say, I run every morning. What does that really mean? Do you run from your front yard to your backyard? Do you run around the block? Do you run around your community? Or do you run 5K, 10K, half a marathon or a full marathon? That will tell us exactly what you are doing, right? And what you are achieving. That's the way you can't just put on your resume ability to use Microsoft Excel. And so what? Even the person that never went to school can write that on their resume. Ability to use Microsoft Excel. It doesn't mean anything to anybody. Because you should be able to tell us what exactly did you use Microsoft Excel to do and what did it achieve. Okay. Before I go to the next mistake, any comments on this one? Any comments from anyone? Any questions? Okay. Create a master resume. That was something I had said at the very beginning. With all your experiences, but then you have to tailor each of your applications to the job description because the job description should be unique. They will have their own nuances. You want to be the best fit for that job, right? And so your resume needs to be some kind of a dress custom made for the job description. It must fit the job description, right? That's what we want to, that's where you want to end up, being. Okay, number 2, writing a job description instead of achievements. What does this really mean? So remember that same very simple example, ability to use Microsoft Excel, because it will be in the JD, ability to use Microsoft Excel. Okay, yes, 1,000 people apply for that same role. Everybody is writing ability to use Microsoft Excel in their resume. And then one person decides and says, I used Excel to analyze 1 million+ records of a data set to be able to find out, the level of success of COVID-19 vaccine within Kitchener in Ontario in 2021. That's different from ability to use Excel. That's different. Because what you've told us is that you've told us what you did, why you did it, and probably what you achieved. That's what you want your bullet point to communicate, not just ability. So you don't write job descriptions, you write your achievements. that resonate with the job description. And I talked about last week the use of the PAR formula, problem, action, results, in your bullet points in your resume. I call it the what, why, impact paradigm. And I will show you an example. So somebody came to me last week. Yes, I think it was last week. Early last week or the week before. I can't remember now. And this was the person's resume, right? And then, as part of what we were doing, I was now like saying, okay, let's see where we land with this kind of resume. And I just want to show you when it comes to bullet points, right? And I said, let's look at your bullet points. So let's see. Let me see. Okay, here. So let me see. No, let me not use this one. This one. Just give me a sec here. Give me 1 sec. I want to get the exact resume the person brought. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's do this one. So let me quickly go through, the kind of very simple transformation. So I was saying last week, so very simple transformations. Last week, we talked about the sections that should feature on your resume, right? And which he actually did some sort of a good work on. Hers was not that bad. So you want to have the header section, right? That's very important. We want to be able to quickly identify who are you. So your name, your contact details, very, very quickly. That should be there, right? And then what's your professional persona? Hopefully you want this to line up with the job title you're applying for. If you're applying for a project manager role and you put Salesforce Business System Analyst, most likely consider the recruiter that has about, hundreds of resumes to look through. They'll just put it aside because you are not a PM. Why should you be applying for a PM role if you are truly a business system analyst? It's not that you don't have the skill set, but at the very least, you want the person to be interested. You are not a PM. So the person most likely will go through those that say that they are project manager. Then you want to write your professional summary. Now, back in the day, most of us, I don't know, some of us here, used to have what we call career objective. That's what we used to have. Objective. And I say, oh, I want to be. No. Nobody cares what you want to be. Who are you? We want to know who you are, not what you want to be. No, you can be doing that in your performance appraisal with your manager. Where do you want to be in the next 5 years? Not on your resume. In your resume, we need to know what you've done, what you can do, not where you want to be. No, that's your own personal ambition, right? So you want to be able to say something that will tell us exactly who you are, what you've done. Like, take for example, this person is saying, you know what, I'm a Salesforce certified solution administrator, consultant with over 10 years experience in, and this is what I would say, right? So experience in, and the person just kept on saying, what, in this. Okay, I'm like asking, so what did you do with all of this? What did you achieve? What were you able to accomplish? In the course of your career, you should be able to tell us 1 or 2 things that you did that brought value to the organization. And that's where you want to now put in quantifiable achievements. So, expert in gathering and analyzing requirements, designing solutions, optimizing workflows, deliver solutions that increase operational efficiency by 30%. So you didn't just do what you are doing. It was the success is measurable. We need to know, why are you doing what you are doing? What was the KPI for doing whatever you are doing? It needs to be measurable, right? What's the value that we derive? We improved case resolution by 20%, and we boosted user productivity by 25%. Now, you do whatever you want, but you don't just want to tell us, oh, this is what I've done, but you also want to tell us what value did what you did, what did it bring to the table, right? And then you can wrap it up. Now, look at technical skills. So, sections. So, the header, the professional summary, and then the next thing is your skills table. Now, you can do it any way you want, but don't forget there are 2 categories of entities that would most likely look at your resume. There's the animate and the inanimate. What do I mean by that? The animate is a human being, a recruiter, an HR generalist, whoever is looking at it, as a human being. And then there's the inanimate, which is the ATS, the application tracking system. You also need to write your resume for the ATS or a job scan technology somewhere. Now, for the human, you also want to make it in such a way that it will be very readable, easy to read. Like, compare this. Again, it's not like I'm not saying you have to do what I'm saying, but I'm just saying best practice. Compare this to this. This has been kind of categorized. If you want to know, okay, what does this person know in Salesforce? I can easily say, okay, if I'm not interested in the person's Salesforce skill, okay, what has this person done in business analysis? It's here. You are using bolded text, sparingly, but in a relevant fashion. But over here, imagine I have to read each and every one of these. And in my head, I now say, okay, this is gap analysis. Oh, this has to do with business analysis. And then the next one is testing. The next one is testing. The next one is, it's like, it's all over the place, right? But doing this just gives a bit of structure. Now, while you do this, you don't also want to do it in such a way that you now start putting tables, you start putting graphics, images. For the ATS, so for human being, it may be friendly. You put an image. Some people say, oh, I want to put my picture. I want to put, for the human being, fine. But for the ATS machine or technology, the ATS doesn't like images. It's unable to fully process complexities in your resume. Like when you start having multiple columns, when you start having tables and complex formatting, the ATS breaks down. It will be like as if it passes to pass, as in PARSE. It will pass your resume, but it won't be able to process it. And there won't be any result at the end. And you imagine the person on the other end trying to say, oh, okay, out of these resumes, how many of them passed the benchmark that was pre-programmed into the ATS? Your resume is not going to come out. So it's done. Nobody even knows your name at that point in time. So it's irrelevant, who you are, even whatever you wrote in your resume. If the ATS cannot pass it, it's done, right? Then the next section is your professional experience, which again, hopefully, especially if you are somebody who is who is in tech, there's the concept of projects, which again exemplifies what you have done. I say a lot of people that will come in and say business analyst, and we are like saying, okay, what were you doing as a business analyst? If you're a business analyst, you hopefully should be involved in one project in whatever shape or form. I'm not talking about how big, how small, whatever the size of the project, but at least you'll be able to tell us. And the reason why I always recommend you putting the project in your resume is that you don't want to get to a position whereby you are in front of that interviewer and it's like, oh, okay, Mike, so you said you've worked at ABC company, you've worked at, XYZ company. Can you give me, just tell me a project you worked on and your role and what you did? Now, that's a very open-ended question. Now, in your own head, what do you think is going to start happening? You now start thinking, for the past 10 years, which project am I going to bring out of my back pocket, right? Now, good for you if you're able to find something and you are coherent and you articulate yourself pretty well. But do you know how much life will have been way easier if you had itemized one or two projects here? Then the interviewer is not going to be asking that open-ended question. The interviewer would rather say, oh, so Mike, I can see that you worked at Manifest and Company and you were a Salesforce business system analyst and you worked on a project, you implemented a customer-facing community portal, blah, blah, blah. Can you tell me your role, what you did on that project? Do you see how you have actually narrowed it? This again brings me to like ChatGPT. If you ask ChatGPT that first question, or you ask ChatGPT the second one to say, okay, tell me the experience, what you did in your role on a project titled this as a business system analyst, you'll be amazed what ChatGPT will give you. Then you just say ChatGPT, oh, okay, can you just tell me about a project that any BSA can do within IT? What do you think ChatGPT will even tell you? Even the almighty ChatGPT. It's just going to give you a lot of response that will have a lot of hallucinations in it, as in a lot of data that may not be relevant to what you're expecting. So you also want to put yourself in a position whereby even when you get to that point where you are now having that interview, it becomes more of a closed box. They're not going to ask you anything outside what is in your resume. Is that making sense, people here? Does anybody have comments or questions to what I've said so far? Hello? Now, after your experience, then we can now start talking about the bullet points, and which I will come back in a minute. We also now want to put education at the bottom. Now, I've had people come to me and say, I mean, I see resumes, the education is at the way up. And I'm like, what's your education doing up there? It's like, I need to know, tell people what I've done. I say, oh, really fine. I said, and so what's the problem with your education being down here? I said, do you know that there's a difference between education and skills? They're two different things. And the person said, yes. What's my point? I said, your skills in the 21st century marketplace, your skills are more important than your education. I don't have anything against education. And I said, okay, you know what? Don't take my word for it. Let's go to ChatGPT and let's ask ChatGPT to do us a resume, give it the prompt, tell it whatever it wants to do, but tell it to now do a resume based on the prompt. And we did the resume. Where is your education? It's at the bottom. That's how you telling me ChatGPT is crazy. ChatGPT is coming from a large amount of data based on industry best practice that he has unearthed across the internet, the super highway, and came up with whatever he told us. I'm not saying ChatGPT is 100% right, but I expect that ChatGPT would aggregate data based on what is out there. And if ChatGPT is putting your education at the bottom when we asked it to write a resume, I said, I think I'll also put it at the bottom. Now, you may disagree with me. That's okay. I'm not saying don't put it there. I'm just saying put it at the bottom. So those are the sections. Now, I talked about your bullet points. Your bullet points are also, and I talked about the power formula, problem, action, result. So let's look at these bullet points. Facilitated requirement gathering, workshop, interview, survey, questionnaire to gain in-depth knowledge. Okay, that's fine. So you told us what you are doing. You told us why you are doing it, to gain in-depth knowledge. Now let's look at this one. Documented, detailed, functional, technical, and data requirement for a new Salesforce solution. That doesn't tell me anything, right? It just tells me what you did. Now, how can you transform these bullet points into something that is kind of a bit more valuable to you? If your bullet point is not giving you the what, the why, and the impact, that bullet point is not doing you justice. So if we come here, that same bullet point, right? So we're saying that you documented and refined requirements into detailed functional and technical design documents. That's the what. Achieving, that's the why. That's in, no, this is the impact. 100% adherence rate to business rules and setting clear foundations for the development team. So you have the what, you have the why. Why are you doing it? You want to set clear foundations for the development team. And what did you achieve by doing that? You achieved 100% adherence rate to business rules. That's a more valuable bullet point. It's not how many bullet points you have, it is the value of each bullet point, and to be able to exemplify not just what you did, why you did it, and what it achieved. That's what makes for a bullet point. And I'll give you an example. Someone came to me some time ago and said, hey, I've been applying for roles and blah, 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 and I'm not getting called and all of that. Super guy, you know, an expert in what he does in his field, was looking for a second job. And I said, where are you applying for these jobs? And he said, on LinkedIn. And I said, are the roles still open? I said, even if they are not open, do you have the JD to each of those roles? I want to benchmark it against your resume that you used to apply. I said, can you come with that in the next session? And he did, right? And when he did, long story cut short, we had to go to the skills section of LinkedIn. And, you know, for some of us, because we are all job seekers, right? I hope that we all know that there is a completely different portal for recruiters on LinkedIn. As in, if you're a recruiter and you're trying to recruit for a role on LinkedIn, there's a different portal where you set up the requirements for that role. You know what was happening to this guy? Apparently, his skills on LinkedIn were obsolete. So those were his skills when he was still like maybe 5, 10 years ago, just starting out. Whereas the job he was applying for right now, those skills were not in his profile. So I said, okay, you know what? Let's go to LinkedIn and show me a job that you are trying to apply to. He logged in and we're on screen. And I said, what's LinkedIn saying about your fitness for this job? LinkedIn ranked him 4/10 for the first job. And he said, what does that mean? What am I saying? I said, go on LinkedIn. LinkedIn will tell you the skills that are required for that job. And LinkedIn will give you a mark on a scale of 1 to 10. The first one is called 4. He said, what? And I said, look at it yourself. You don't have the skills for this job. Now, the LinkedIn recruiter does not care who you are at this point. He's looking for talent. The second one, he scored 5. The third one, he scored 6. The last one, he scored 4. And he said, and we went into his skills on LinkedIn. And he was now like, these are things that I've done way, way back in the past. All these skills that he never went back to it and he has never updated them in years. And I said, let me show you my LinkedIn. The jobs I want to apply for, I would rarely score less than 8/10 on any of those jobs. Now, what does that mean? At that point, nobody's even caring what your profile looks like. But what we are saying is that when it goes through the algorithm, right, there's animate, there's inanimate. You have to work for both. You have to appeal to both. And the inanimate one, I tell you, is the easier one because you just need to follow the algorithm. And when he did that, he went, I think he only came back once just to tell me that things have improved, and he never came back to me. But he was very grateful that he never looked at LinkedIn that way. Right? So you want to, and this is animate, right? A human being is reading. So that when you now finally get that interview and somebody's looking at your resume, it's like, okay, okay. We can pick anyone. So use, let's see, we can pick anyone. Your resume needs to meet those criteria of success. I want to pick one that doesn't do you justice. So worked towards preparation, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is another one. This is just the what. Worked towards preparation of requirements management plan, business functional. This is just the what. Anybody can write this. I can copy paste this from anywhere. Even you, tell me, what did you do? As in, why did you have to do it? Now, if we were to go look for that, worked towards, I don't know, I hope I can find it. So, inventory, customer relationship, let's go down. What's it down? Oh. So here. So, worked towards, so here. So here. So this is, I think, if I'm not wrong, this one. So delivered, so look at this. Developed comprehensive requirements management plans and documented business and specifications, enhancing project clarity. This is the why. Everything from here to here is the what. That's what you did. That's fine. Anybody can say that. You can just mock it up. But this is the why, and this is what it achieved. Now, don't forget, we're not just saying write these things down. If somebody now says, oh, so what exactly do you mean by it achieved is reduced change request by 15%? Oh, thank you very much, Phil, for that question. Yeah, before this particular time, the legacy process that we were using was actually, we were not able to, our SLA, we're not meeting up with our SLA, with our customers or with our clients. However, by the time we implemented this project, we were able to look at the data set from before the project versus after the project, and we compared the numbers over a period of 90 days, or over a period of 180 days, and we were able to ascertain that there had been a reduction of 15%. You just explained it. Because it's in your resume, you wrote it. You better have the response to it. And you know what I do tell people? I can respond to any question in an interview, and you can't say, oh, Mike, you are lying. How would you say that? Were you there? I'm the one that said I was there. You can't challenge a story that you weren't part of, except you are not coherent, except you are not articulating. And that's why you need to own your resume. You better be able to respond to questions from your resume. That's on you. But because it's there, right, it's not open-ended, it's closed. So you should be prepared to answer those questions. And everybody will just be like, wow, okay, that makes sense. Okay. So let's go back to the slide deck. Yeah. Okay. Include quantifiable achievements. Start bullet points with strong action verbs. I think we saw that. Developed, facilitated, collaborated, so many of them that you can use. An example here, responsible for social media management. Grew, so that this is what, so now in the JD, they could be saying that, oh, ability to use social media. And then you are now saying responsible for social media. Which social media platform were you responsible for? That's the first question I will ask you. So if you know TikTok and we are using what else? Instagram, you are not of good value to us. We want somebody that knows how to work Instagram. So you better tell us exactly what you did, which social media platform. Grew Instagram engagement. You are being very specific. By 200% in 6 months. That's achievement. Metric, quantifiable. How did you do it? Through strategic content planning, resulting in 50K new followers. Now, when you write this, whoever is looking for somebody that wants to help your Instagram social media presence, you are the guy they want to look for. You are not just saying responsible. With your resume, nobody is going to be thinking, oh, okay, let's look at the remaining part of the resume to see which social media did the person work on. There's no time for that. It's just 6-7 seconds. They are done. They just put this one away. You to imagine if two of you have one liner to convince a recruiter that you are the best person for social media engagement, and they know they need somebody that uses Instagram. And two of you, one of you do this, one of you do this. Even if you were the recruiter, who would you follow? Who would you go with? Okay. Number 3, poor visual hierarchy and formatting. This is pretty simple. And it's just basically, I still see a lot of people using multiple fonts in the same resume. I'm like, were you sleeping when you were doing the resume? I mean, worst case scenario, do Control A, select all, and change the fonts. Let it all be the same. Right? Have clear section with headers. Let it be very clear. Like we were saying here. Let your sections be very clear, right? Technical skills, professional experience, education. Let it be clear. Let's know exactly what that section is supposed to be saying, right? Let it be clear. Now, your bullet points, keep to 2 lines. Now, I personally would say if your bullet point has to be 3 lines, so be it, but it better have the components, right? The components is what matters. It can even be a one-liner and still hit 3/3, even as a one-liner. But at times you will find 3 lines that still doesn't hit anything. It's still just telling us what you did. Trying to see if there's a one-liner here. There's no one-liner here. But it should hit the 3/3. That's if you cannot even hit 3/3, at least hit 2. You can't afford not. If it's just hitting 1, then I'm sorry, that resume, that bullet point is not doing you justice. Use consistent font sizes and styles. I don't expect anybody, hopefully, to be making this kind of mistakes in these modern times, right? That's my opinion. Again, use bold and italics sparingly for emphasis. You don't want to bold everything, right? Because bolding means it's like you're borderline yelling. But when you use them sparingly, then that's fine for emphasis. That's the key for emphasis, right? That's fine. Okay, number 4, including outdated or irrelevant information. Now, this goes for especially people that have long time of work experience. Like if your work experience is like 2 decades, like someone like me, my work experience right now is about 2.5 decades. You know what I decided to do? Like the first 10, actually about the first 10 to 12 years of my work experience on my resume, I just have my job titles and the places where I worked. That's all. I don't even have any bullet points. That's all. When I came to Canada, I had mentioned it on one of these sessions. I had a 13-page resume when I came to Canada. I was coming from Europe. At that time, I had 15 years work experience. So I felt, I needed to showcase everything. And your guess as good as mine. Who is going to read a 13-page resume? Today, I struggle to make it 4 pages. I really struggle, right? And that's me just having the first 12 years where I had about 4 or 5 roles in that 12-year span. All I have now is just the job title, the work organization, and the time I spent there. I don't have one bullet point for those roles. And you can ask me why. Most likely, the job roles I'm applying for right now, the kind of work I did in those roles does not speak directly to them. Then you may want to ask me, why should I have them in my resume in the first place? No, if I don't have them in my resume, then you have a full picture of who I am and what I bring to the table. When I introduce myself in my resume, I tell you that I'm a multidisciplinary IT specialist with with 2.5 decades of cognitive IT work experience, having worked in multiple domains, including but not limited to software products such as Oracle, SAP, IBM, Workday, Siebel, across multiple sectors, including but not limited to government, non-profit, tech, aviation, transport. And over the years, I've had expertise in project management, business analysis, and software test management, all at enterprise level. However, in the last 5 years, I since have pivoted into the Salesforce ecosystem. Now, somebody else could have written that and said, I have 5 years Salesforce experience. And then somebody feels like you left school 5 years ago. No, that's great disservice. You need to over-amplify your persona, your professional persona. You need to over-amplify it. Now, look at what I said. That's what's on my resume. So when you are reading my resume, I'm telling you that this thing, you know what? You are not even if the role is for a business system analyst, you are getting 3 for 1. I say it in an interview. They ask me, Mike, why? I say, yes, I am a trained project manager. I'm a seasoned business system analyst, and as well as a test manager, all at enterprise level. So you are literally getting 3 for 1. And that's why it will not be in your own interest not to consider me for this role, because you are getting more value than what you are going to be paying for. You can call it arrogance. I call it value. Right? So you want to represent yourself accurately, over amplify. Now, there are things you don't need to amplify. And focus on the last 10, 15 years of your experience. If really you have more than that, which is what I've done. I have 25 years. But I'm literally focusing on the last 10 to 15 years, because that's what is literally very relevant to the kind of roles I'm applying for right now. But I want you to know that I'm not a rookie. I'm not 5 years out of school. I've been out of school for a while. So I come with an embodiment of knowledge. You want that to be put there. I've had people come to me and I see the executive summary. They say, I have 7 years work experience as whatever role they want to apply for. And then I look at the whole resume and their job experience started from 15 years ago. And I'm like, so what happened? They're like, what do I mean? I said, you didn't graduate from school 7 years ago. So why are you telling me you have 7 years experience as a business analyst? Whereas you have about 15 years cumulative cognitive post-qualification work experience. So what happened to the other 8? Did you just drop from the sky? And then I'll say, you need to tell us that you are a seasoned, whatever, marketing, communication, whatever, professional with over 15 years work experience. However, in the last 7 years, in the last 5 years, in the last 3 years, I've pivoted into, I've got, that's the way you, so that when somebody's looking at you, they're looking at you like this larger than life person. But you are still telling them, you know what, even though I have 10, 15 years of work experience, what really matters is what I've done in the last 3 years with regard to this role. And that's what I want you to look at. But don't look at me only as somebody with 3 years work experience. That's the first thing, because the executive summary is what someone would read firsthand and want to know whether they even want to continue reading your resume or not. And I tell people, I dare you, read my executive summary if you don't want to talk to me. So what do you want? What do you not want to do? Or what? Remove obsolete technical skills. Remember that guy I was talking about? Some of us still have our resume as if it was never updated in the last 10 years. Just because you want us to know that, oh, you used to work on that technology 15, 20 years ago, that most likely is not even real. Even the kids that are graduating school today, they don't even know that that ever existed. You don't want to do that. Eliminate high school information. Remember those days when they say, tell me about yourself, you start from when you went to primary school. I hope nobody still does that. Tell me about yourself. I say, as people come to me, I say, tell me about yourself. Very basic question that you would always be asked in an interview. And the person started telling me, I went to this primary school, I went to that secondary school. I'm not kidding you. I'm not just saying this because I know. And I just let the person continue. And then after 2 minutes, then I graduated from, oh, so when are we going to run down all the jobs that you have done? And I said, you need to stop. Tell me about yourself, maximum 90 to 120 seconds. You need to be in and out. Or even, okay, let's come contemporary. Tell me about yourself. Oh, thank you very much. My background is in XYZ. I've worked in, A company, B company. I worked on this project. I did this, I did that. And I said, stop there. I didn't say, tell me what you've done. I said, tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself. So tell me your persona, your professional persona. As in, if you have only 90 seconds to speak to Mark Zuckerberg in an elevator, are you really going to start from when you started primary school? Really? Delete references to age, marital status, or personal details. I even tell people, in your personal details, don't even put the location where you are. I said, especially in light of post-COVID, remote work has become the norm, even though I know organizations are now trying to revert back, right? But I don't even need to put that, wherever I am, my location. You know why? It may work for or against you at that time when it's not really relevant. I had somebody who was applying for roles in Ontario, and she was living in Saskatchewan. The role was supposed to be a hybrid role. And when we were working on her resume, I said, don't put your location there. It's a hybrid role. You are living in Saskatchewan, and this role is in Ontario. And that's how we ran with it. We did the first stage interview, second stage interview. She got the job. And when she got the job, she was now doing the pre-onboarding. And they were like, so, this is the office location. We come in 3 days a week. Is that okay for you? And all of that and all of that. And she was still saying, yes, that's okay. Because at that point in time, she was willing to relocate. She ended up not going for other reasons, but she got the job. Now, you imagine she had put Saskatchewan from the beginning. What do you think the recruiter will have done with that resume? Knowing that it's a hybrid role. It doesn't care whatever is in her resume. Most likely they will have put it aside. There's no need. Somebody sent me a message 3 nights ago on a training platform where I mentor. And the person said, I need to book your time. I want to apply for a job in Dublin. And I want you to look at my resume, whether it's a good fit for that role. And I said, send me the JD. The person sent me the JD on my phone. I didn't even come to my computer. And I looked at the JD, and I'm like, the JD had one clause somewhere there that the person needs to have a working visa for Ireland. And I know this person lives in Italy. And I know the person is not an EU citizen. So the next question I sent to the person, so I actually went on the online platform. I opened up my calendar so that the person can book my time. But I now felt like, no, this is not right. I now sent a message to her and I said, did you realize that you need to have a working permit to work in Ireland in order to be eligible to apply for this job? And then she took some time, and then she sent me a message and said, but somebody in the organization actually asked her to apply for the role. I said, no, I don't care. I said, even when we in Canada here, we apply for jobs, part of the job application, they will say, are you eligible to work in Canada? If you apply for jobs in the US, they will say, we're not going to work on any sponsorship. you need to be eligible, have a B2 visa to work in the US or W2C or whatever, right? And I said, so I don't think this is going anywhere. And then I called her. She was in Italy. It was my own time, like 11. It was, I don't even know what time it was for her. It was maybe whatever. And then I spoke and I said, it's not going to work. And she said, actually, that she thanked me and said she didn't even realize. I said, yes. But if she was wanting in that case, it has is a bit more complicated, right? Because she needs a working visa in Ireland. But what I'm saying is that you can't afford not to fully understand the things that should go or should not go in your resume. Okay. Remove the objective statement. We don't do that anymore. Either you say professional summary or you say career highlights, things like that. Not objective. Those are things that we all did back in the day. Nobody does that anymore. Any comments, any questions with regards to this point before we go on the last one and wrap this up? I'm trying to look at the chat. Okay, all right. Ignoring the ATS. You can't ignore the ATS. You can't. I'm sorry. Now, yes, you can debate it. Not all organizations use ATS. Most organizations still have an HR department, a recruiting department that still looks at the resume by hand, right? But a lot of organizations also use the ATS. And there are so many ATS kind of, things you can look out for, even online. There are even applications online to help you tune your resume to be ATS compliant. For most of what we have discussed here, if you abide by some of these things, your application would already be ATS compliant. Like I was saying, use standard section heading. Okay, let me give you an example again. Do you know that for most organizations, when you apply, so number one, I don't apply directly on LinkedIn. So that's my two cents that I'm going to give away to all of you. I don't apply directly on LinkedIn. As in use my LinkedIn profile to apply for job. My LinkedIn profile is not updated anyway. I don't look for jobs on LinkedIn. So now, when you have to apply for jobs on LinkedIn, for you to, so not even apply for jobs on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, you click easy apply. Now, some organizations, they don't just pass your LinkedIn profile. They actually allow you to upload your resume. Now, when you upload your resume, they will now say they will use your resume to pre-fill their own templates. Now, I want people to talk here. When you do that, how much of the text from your resume fits into the template that they have? That's one way for you to know if your resume is ATS compliant. You just realize that, oh, by the time they're writing your first name, last name, your phone number, and then the first place you worked, before you know it, you now see that the first job title is coming in the second place of work, or vice versa. Everything begins to mix up. That means that your headings are not very good, right? That means your headings are not very good. That's what it means. So, 1 minute, please. So you want to use standard section heading so that when your resume is passed by all these ATS applications, things are falling into the right place. Okay? Now, avoid text boxes, tables, and complex formatting. So, I think I have it somewhere that avoid images. Let me see. Okay? Yeah, avoid images, graphics, charts. These were things some of us used to do in the past. You want to make your resume funky. Now, if the kind of role you're applying for is like an art designer role or a role that is on the artistic side of things, and you want to showcase the kind of things you've done, but honestly, you can actually submit a portfolio of your work. You can, either as a slide deck, a presentation from Canva, you can do whatever, but not your resume. Your resume should remain your resume. It needs to be professional. It needs to be clean. It needs to be reader friendly. It needs to be ATS friendly as well. Those days we put tables, right? We want to say, okay, I have these skills, I have these skills. You now put 3-column table. The ATS will have problem passing that table. At the end of the day, it's either it passes it garbage or it may just keep it completely. And then by the time they weight the value of your resume, the weighting goes low. And if you don't meet the threshold that was pre-programmed in that ATS, then your resume is not going anywhere. Avoid headers and footers. Yeah, for the human, it's clean. It looks very right. You have your header, your name is there, whatever, and the footer, whatever. That's good. But for the ATS does not really understand that, oh, this is a header, this is a footer. Because the ATS is just looking for plain text on your resume, looking for certain keywords in order to form an opinion. Okay. All right. What next do I have? So before I come here, this is the end of the presentation itself. Can I get comments, questions, reactions from the audience based on everything I've said so far?
I know, Mike, sorry, I just want to add something. Just for people who cannot speak, maybe because of where you are, you can drop a chat. If that's right. I
Yeah,
think so.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Philip. Yeah, Olushola, please. Olushola, you can go ahead. Let me see. We're not hearing you if in case. Yeah, hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, all
How are
right.
you doing
Thank you.
today?
I'm good, thank you.
Welcome.
I just have a quick question. Thank you for the presentation.
You're
Do
welcome.
is there any free resume template that meets the structure that you have suggested that you can recommend? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. In my experience, free resumes are usually very limiting. I think more often than not, you can manipulate the template. And more often than not, the templates may not be very great. So what I usually do is, you try and look at a great template that you can buy and see how you can work towards that template. So start from the free one and try to, that's if you don't want to buy, right? Purchase is still the best. But if you don't want to buy, then you might need to look at what that paid for template, what does it look like? Because you will find them online. And then at least you can now, if you have the skills, you can work towards making that template yourself from maybe a free one to get you there. But at
Okay.
the end of the day, with or without a great template, the content still matters. The template is the facade, right? And for the ATS is not really so much particular about the template, it's the content. So again, we want to balance the need, both the human person looking at your resume and the ATS application looking at your resume. But yes, there are free templates online, but most of the free templates, you just realize that you can't change a lot of what the template allows you to do. They just want you to replace the words in the template, and that's it. So, but again, I would encourage do a search online, but most of the templates online will be very, very basic templates that you will get for free. Very basic.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. So call to action. Feel free to, if you feel like your resume is not where it needs to be, feel free to book a session at mbconsult.ca. That is the official website for MB Consult. You can go in there and book a session, and obviously somebody will connect with you and we can take a look at your resume. I tell people that, the world we are in right now is getting way, way more difficult, for people to find jobs. The competition is very steep now. And, even to be honest with you, even having a great resume may not even be enough. But what does that tell you? Then you can't even afford not to have a great resume. That's what I would say. That because having a great resume may not even be enough in this era where job applications or job postings are there just to check a box on the HR checklist. I would say that at the very least, 5 or 6 out of 10 of most jobs that you find online. Actually, statistics will tell you that only about 5 to 10% of legitimate jobs are actually posted online, as in legitimate, that this job truly exists and they are open to hire somebody from the people that applied. So there are different ways though. So I've worked on HRIS projects for the last 7 years in Canada. So I've been on both sides. I've been on the side where I'm the one receiving the applications. And I can tell you that there are times where the job posting itself, again, like I said, is just to check a box. There's already the intention to hire somebody, but they still needed to go through that whole process, right? And I just kept seeing applications coming in, whereas there was somebody internally that was going to be moved to that position, and that other position backfilled. So you as the applicant on the other side, you will think that, oh, is it my resume? Was it how I did in the interview? Not necessarily. So there are so many extrapolations when it comes to actually, getting the job. Okay, so what do we do, when we talk about resume review session? We do professional resume analysis. We want to see where you are, where it's your resume. So we analyze your resume. You need to send it in ahead of the session. We look for ways to optimize it for the ATS because that's very important. We look at the format and the design. How can we enhance what you bring to us? Again, I try not to want to write resume for anyone from beginning because I feel like people get emotionally attached to their resume. So whatever you bring, we look at it. And what I do tell people is that we want to take your resume from good to great. I won't tell you a resume is bad. I'll just tell you it may not give you the expected results, right? Achievement focused content development, just like I was showing you. That when someone is looking at your resume, even when the ATS machine is passing, it's also looking for those metrics, those quantifiable achievements. The ATS is looking for it because the ATS is pre-programmed to say, I want somebody who has done something, whatever, and they put all those metrics in there. Industry-specific keyword optimization. Like I told you, when I submitted my resume to that recruiter, it was the recruiter that came back to me and said, Mike, I can't find this skill. So if it's a human being, and this is what recruiters do, not hiring manager, they just do Control F in your resume. They look at all the skills that are required. They do Control F. Whether it even makes sense or not, we've not even gotten there. Is this skill in your resume? Yes or no? If the answer is no, they just drop it somewhere. It's because this is a recruiter that once again, don't forget I'm an independent consultant. So I'm not applying for roles as if no. I'm applying for roles that exist and people are bidding for it. So it is in the interest of the recruiter that he presents me in the best possible way so that when I get called for the job and I get an offer, he gets a commission off it. So it's in his interest that I better put my best feet forward. That's why he's coming back to me. But if I was applying for a role like every other person on somebody's website, nobody will have done that for me. Right? So you need to have your resume locked down. That's the bare minimum you can do, the control that you have. There are a lot of things you don't have control over. So I'm going to stop there. And I hope this has been another wonderful time here with Michael Boyo hanging out with some of his friends. I hope this has been worth your time on a Saturday. And I hope you will be able to invite your friends when next we have a session. Thank you very much. I don't know if anybody still has anything to share. Let me put some. Thank you, John, for those links in the chat. Let me put some other links here. So we have our YouTube channel. So this will be uploaded onto the YouTube channel sometime very soon. You can also follow us on LinkedIn. Feel free, join our community as well. I think I have the QR code here. So you can actually, you can, if you want to use your phone camera, you can actually, join the community. This is an online community portal that we have. You can, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and you can follow us on LinkedIn. Please feel free to use your phone camera to actually get into any of these links, just to kind of, be part of the community. I appreciate you all. And Olushola, is that a new hand or an old hand?
Did I raise my hand? Oh, that must have been in error.
Yeah.
So
Okay then. No, that's fine.
okay.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.